Let me get by the light. What's up, guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Diana and I'm the founder of Money Boss Mama. Many of you know me as Money Boss Mama from Instagram, and the last video that I uploaded, I showed you guys how to break up your monthly budget per paycheck just to help you pace yourself and make it easier to stick to your budget. So in this video, I am going to hopefully quickly walk you guys through how to set up a bill schedule and a bill calendar to help make sure that the budgets that you make per paycheck can be used again and again. So one thing that I don't like doing is making a new budget every single month. Ain't nobody got time for that. So I like to have a stable budget, especially when I'm creating one for a client of mine and they are a budget beginner. It's just a lot easier to, develop the habit of budgeting if there is consistency. So if you get paid, let's say 3 times a month, the first paycheck, which will be paycheck 1, that those expenses should stay the same. Paycheck 2's expenses should stay the same, as well as paycheck 3. So depending on which paycheck that you're on within that month, you want to have consistency by making sure that that paycheck takes the similar expenses that it always has. So I'm going to show you guys how I recommend doing it. So let's get started. All right, ladies. So let's go ahead and get this thing started. I am going to be zooming it today so you guys can see the documents that I am looking at. So first thing on the screen is a bill schedule or an expense schedule. And basically what you want to do is list out all of your expenses. So all of the regular expenses that you are paying for. And this would be really easy if you already have a budget. And if you don't have a budget, it's going to make it easier to create your budget because you know what expenses you have to pay for regularly. So this is an example of a previous client of mine. So you want to list the bill or the expense, the anticipated amount due. So I know that not every expense has the same amount. So there are bills that fluctuate, such as, electricity, your water bill, things like that, that fluctuate based on usage. So you want to just take the average. You can take the average of the last 6 months, and then whatever that average is, depending on your comfort level, you can add a buffer to it. So like a $20, $30 buffer, and then that should give you your anticipated amount due. So you will list that out, as well as the day due of each month. And the day due of each month is very important because that's going to help you see which paycheck of each month should cover this expense. Now, I will say with this client, and I chose her specifically, she does have a lot of expenses. So it does look overwhelming. And that is because she has a lot of expenses. So she lives in an area that's a high cost of living, and she has a husband, children. They do have quite a large family, but this does show you that you don't just have to put down your bills or expenses. You can put down your non-essentials too, to keep everything all in one place. Now, when you get all of your expenses listed out, then you will plug them into a bill calendar. I like to do this, especially if you are a visual person. It's going to help you to visually see and make sure that the budget that you have set up for each paycheck is going to work with the following months so that you don't have to really adjust anything. And so with the calendar, Canva, you can download a calendar for free. I made this one in Google Documents. If you have a Gmail account with the Google Drive, you can create one yourself. This is how I did it. And I like it because it can be used through your mobile phone and you just type in there. So you'll notice here on the bill payment calendar, we have a color key. So paycheck 1's expenses are in pink and paycheck 2's expenses are in yellow. And this just helps us to see based on what paycheck is covering each expense in this month, will it work for September as well? And now this bill calendar is a different client. The previous clients just looked a little too complicated, so we're just going to keep it short and sweet with this one. So you'll see here we have our pay dates listed, so we know which days we're being paid, and then the expenses that are following after that is just a lot easier to see what needs to be paid from what. So this is pink and this is yellow because this is the second paycheck of the month. So you'll see here we have these expenses in pink. This means that it's going to be paid from this paycheck. And here on the auto loan, this is a half payment method, which means that she's going to have part of the auto loan pulled out from paycheck 1 and then part of it pulled out from paycheck 2. So although this payday is the payday we started working out of the budget we created together, you'll see here that there is a yellow portion. That just means that before we started working out of the budget we created together, her previous paycheck, she pulled out half of it to pay for half of this auto loan. So she was already ahead by half a payment in her account. And so that helped us to make sure that the half payment method was going to be safe for her to start on this specific payday. And so here we have, Chase and her, it's an expense called self that's being taken from paycheck 1, paycheck 2, life insurance, Disney Plus, things like that. So depending on the budget that you set for each paycheck of yours, whether you get paid twice a month, 3 times a month, 4 times a month, it doesn't matter. Depending on the budget that you create for those paychecks, you're going to plug in the first month that you're going to be using, and then you're going to plug in at least 2 more months after that to make sure that depending on which expense you have covered from each paycheck, is going to work with the following month. So one thing that's important to note is that based on the due dates from your bill or expense schedule that you have listed out, you want to go into every single calendar and just first things first, plug in the expense on its due date. And then based on the first month that you're going to start using this type of budgeting method, then you'll go in and make sure that based on the due dates and then the paycheck that you use for those expenses is going to be able to be the same for the following months. All right, so scrolling down now to month 2, we have the expenses the same, Discover, Chase, the half payment method on the auto loan, just like it was for this month. Now you may see something a little different. We have 2 expenses that weren't included in this first month. So she has iCloud and Priceline. That was not included in this month. And that's because based on the due dates, it came before her first paycheck that we were going to be using this budget for. So that was already covered. They're due on the 3rd. And so she didn't get paid until the 6th. So her previous paycheck already covered that. So we just left it out of the bill calendar for this month. But paycheck 2 is in yellow. We have Disney Plus, life insurance, Pantaya, and that is covered from paycheck 2 in this month also. And we can see based on the payday, it's going to come in before these expenses are due. So we are able to safely leave the budget alone for these expenses. Now, HBO Max was a little different. So in August, we had it being covered from paycheck 1, and that is because paycheck 2 came a day after its due date. It's due on the 19th. And so on the 19th here, it's a Sunday. It was most likely taken out on that Friday, which is the 17th, which it could have still worked, but based on how her budget was, it would make it a little too tight. And so we just had paycheck 2 taking that. So now I want to scroll down to the 3rd month to see how everything worked out. So for paycheck 1, these are the same expenses that were taken from paycheck 1's budget in the previous month. So iCloud, Priceline, Chase, the auto loan is still the half payment method. All of that is the same. And then paycheck 2, that is able to stay the same also. So you don't have to create a whole new budget. And now, if you are someone who just gets paid twice a month, you are going to have some months in which you have a third paycheck. And so, what's really cool about this is that you're budgeting for 2 paychecks a month. So, just based on the month that would come after this, you'll see what needs to be paid from this payday, because you're going to have that gap between this third paycheck and then paycheck 1 of the following month. So you need to make sure those expenses are taken care of. But the way that you have your paydays and the expenses laid out, payday 1, these are payday 1's expenses. So you can reimburse yourself whenever you finally get to your payday 1 of the following month. And that way you can free up some funds from payday 3 or your extra paycheck, or you can just pay up some bills. It's just however you prefer to do it. But you'll see here that paycheck 1's expenses are the same. This is a Sunday, so these two will probably be taken out on the 1st, which is that Friday. Still works for that payday. And then paycheck 2's expenses are the same. So as you can see here, for the next few months, this client is safe to keep pretty much the same budget for each paycheck. Paycheck 1's budget should rarely ever change, and paycheck 2's budget should rarely ever change. And then once she gets through October, she can choose to continue to make extra bill calendars just to make sure that the budgets are still going to work with her pay dates. That way she's not putting herself under in her bank accounts. All right, you guys, that wraps up this video. If this was super helpful to you, make sure to give it a thumbs up. For those of you who get paid weekly and monthly, I am going to be making budgets for you guys to show you how I recommend creating your budget, especially one that is going to be consistent. But whether you get paid weekly, bi-weekly, whatever, you can use this video, the tips in this video, to help make sure that each budget is consistent. But just hold tight. If you're not a bi-weekly person, I got you. But in the meantime, let me know any questions you guys have in the comments, any additional tips, and I will catch you in the next one.